I died 3 times. And the last time I was gone for 44 hours. My brain was destroyed. My lungs were full of blood. The doctors stood outside that room every single day and told my wife to let me go. And she wouldn't. Now listen close. Because before I go, and I am going soon, one way or another, you need to hear what Jesus showed me, what he said to me, and what he sent me back to tell you. Before we move on, remember this. You are not alone on this path. Share in the comments what God has done in your life and let us know where you're listening from. We truly love seeing how far these stories reach. It started with a lump on my neck, came up overnight, literally. I went to sleep one night and woke up with a mass sitting there on my throat, big enough that I couldn't swallow water right. Had to gulp it down, and you know how a man is. You tell yourself it's nothing, an infection maybe, something that'll pass. It didn't pass. I drove myself to the stand-alone emergency room in Willow Park. Sat in the back while they did the scans and shot me full of steroids. And then the doctor came in, and he pulled up a little stool, and he sat down, and he looked straight at me, and he said, "I'm going to give it to you straight." I said, "Okay." And I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. He said they'd consulted with 2 other doctors, sent my scans out. They all agreed. Rare cancer, aggressive. He told me to see a specialist on Monday and not to wait, not even one day. I never made it to Monday. By the 17th, I couldn't get air. My wife drove me down to Harris Methodist in Fort Worth, and they put an intubation tube down my throat just so I could breathe. Admitted me straight to the ICU. I lay there 2 days. The doctor came in on the afternoon of May 19th, looked over everything, said I was stable. She stayed about 30 minutes. Everything looked fine, she said. And then she walked out to the desk, and my wife walked out with her. They were gone about 35-40 minutes. The medical records say that. Everything from the moment I walked into that hospital to the moment I came back, all of it is recorded, thousands of pages. And somewhere in those 35 minutes, that mass rolled over my airway, and I suffocated to death. My wife came back into the room and found me blue, not breathing, not moving. She ran out into the hall hollering that I was blue, and the whole floor came running, code blue, chest compressions, people crawling under the bed, over the bed, throwing tubes everywhere. They tried twice to get a tube back down my throat and couldn't do it because that mass was blocking the way. So they cut my neck open to put in a breathing hole, a tracheotomy, and am bouncing around on that table while they're doing it because they're still doing CPR. And blood filled my lungs, all of it, both of them. And then I wasn't there anymore. I left my body. I was up above it, looking down, watching them work on me, watching them do chest compressions and throw tubes and cut at my neck. And I floated out into the hallway, and I saw my wife. She was doubled over, puddles of tears on the floor. And I was saying, "It's going to be okay, it's going to be okay," but she couldn't hear me. She didn't know I was there. And then, just that fast, I was somewhere else. No tunnel, no choir, no slow walk toward a light. I was in that ICU hallway, and then I was there. That's the only way I know to say it. One moment, and then the next. completely somewhere else. I was standing in what I call the inner courtyard. Now, I want you to understand something. I have tried to find the words for this 1,000 times. I have sat at kitchen tables and stood in front of churches, and I still can't do it right. The English language was not built to hold what I saw. But I'm going to try. The trees, child, the trees. We have 40-some oak trees in our backyard back home. Big old things. I always thought they was something. Standing in that courtyard, those oaks back home looked like little dying twigs. The trees in heaven are massive and full, and the colors on them, there's no dull. There's no gray. It's like every color you've ever seen has been turned all the way up, all at once, and still that's not close enough. And the flowers, placed just perfectly, not a dead leaf anywhere, nothing rotting, nothing fading, just life, everywhere, just pure and perfect life. And there was no sun. Now listen close. We say Jesus is the light of the world. I always thought that was a beautiful thing to say, a poem almost. But, child, it is not a poem. There is no sun in heaven because He is the light. His light is what lights everything up. It comes from Him and it goes into everything, the trees, the flowers, the air, and it carries His love with it. So when the light touches you, the love touches you all at once, like a warm hand on your shoulder from somebody who knows every single thing about you and loves you anyway. I just stood there. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything but stand there and take it in. And then I heard it, a kind of hum, low and soft, underneath everything. I thought at first it was the wind, but there was no wind. It was the plants, every tree, every flower, giving off its own little tone, and all those tones coming together like an orchestra, all of them praising Him all day long, without stopping, without tiring, just praising Him. You could talk right through it and not notice. But if you went still and listened, there it was, the whole garden singing, and the smell. Every flower had its own scent, and all those scents joined together into one clean, living fragrance I still can't name. If I could put it in a bottle, I'd never worry about money again. I was standing in all of that when I looked across the courtyard and saw a familiar face. It was my father. Not the man cancer took from me, not the shriveled, eaten-away man I held at the end, a young man, 35, maybe 38 years old, healthy, strong, tending the shrubs along the path like he'd been doing it his whole life. Now, I didn't get to stay long that first time. Those doctors down there got my heart going again, and just that fast I was back in the chaos. Back in the blood and the tubes and the noise. But my lungs were still full. They couldn't get oxygen through the walls. So they drilled a hole in my side and drained out a bottle's worth of blood and started scraping the inside of my lungs, trying to open them up. And the stress of all that was too much. My heart stopped a second time, and I was back. Instantly. No waiting, no in-between. Just back. This time I was standing in a big open meadow, wide and green and quiet. I could see the inner courtyard off in the distance, and I could still make out my father over there tending those shrubs. And my mother was somewhere further off. I didn't go to her. I just stood there in that meadow, feeling that same warmth, that same love pressing in from every direction, like the air itself was glad you were there. And then I heard them coming, 2 horses trotting across the field toward me, and 3 little dogs running alongside. I knew those horses. My wife and I had 2 horses, Shakush and Nugget. We'd had to put them both down. Old age, cancer. It was the humane thing, but it still costs you something when you do it. And here they came, happy, just full of joy, running right up to me. And the dogs. 2 of them I knew right away. Fudge 1 and Fudge 2. Rescue dogs, all of them. Fudge 2 had been a bait dog before we got him, used in dog fighting. He had fear in him that never fully left. Even with all the love we gave him, he would snap sometimes. Not mean, just broken from what had been done to him, but not here. Here he was just pure love. Every bit of the fear and the damage gone, just the best of him, the real him, running across that field. The third dog I didn't recognize. Small thing, just trotting along with the others like she belonged. I found out later, when I came home and described her to my wife, that it was a dog named Annie. My wife's dog from before we ever met. A dog I never knew. But she was there. Now, here is something I need you to sit with. I couldn't talk to my father about what was happening down here on earth. Not about Carol, not about any of it. And there's a reason for that. Jesus explained it to me later. When a person arrives in heaven, he blocks the memory of the ones left behind, not to take anything from them, but because there is no worry in heaven, no grief, no suffering. If your loved one could look down and see you hurting, they would hurt too, and that is not what heaven is. So he sends his comforter to care for the ones still here. He takes care of your people until they get there, and he means it. I watched him do it. The third time I died, I walked with Jesus for 43 hours. That is not a figure of speech. That is not poetry. The medical records show my heart stopped a third time and did not come back for 43 hours and 28 minutes. That is how long I was gone. And every minute of it, I was with him. I came back into heaven the same way I always did. That fast. No waiting. And this time, I walked straight through the inner courtyard, past the river of life, past the flowers and the trees and all that singing, and I walked toward the silhouette I had seen before, the one standing off in the distance with the light around him. My father had told me, when you approach him, you go down on your right knee, then your left, and if there is a conversation to be had, he will start it. That is not what happened. When I got close enough to see his face, I just went down, all the way down, face flat on the ground, crying like I was a child again, not from sorrow, not from shame, from joy, from wonder, from the simple fact that I was actually there, actually in front of my Lord and Savior, and it was real. It was all real. He walked over to me, he reached down, and he took my hand, and he said, "Stand. We have much to walk and talk about," and he wiped my tears. Now, you want to know what he looks like. Everybody asks that. He was about 5'8", trim, kept beard full but neat, long hair but not wild tended clean. Everything about him was just right. But the eyes, child, the eyes, they were a greenish-brownish hazel, and they glowed. And when he looked at me, there was nobody else in the world, just me. His full attention, all of it, on me, like I was the only person who had ever lived. That is the look he gives everybody, and you will feel it the moment he turns it on you. The first thing I said to him before anything else, before any of the wonder wore off, was, "Can I go back? I need to take care of Carol." He didn't answer, just said, "Come, we need to walk." So we walked through heaven for 43 hours. Nobody got tired. Nobody needed to stop. He showed me our house, the pasture out back where the horses and the dogs were playing in the field, and those horses, Shakush and Nugget, when they came running up this time, they didn't come to me. They came to him. He stood there petting the nose of our horse, and I just watched. I thought, Lord, those horses know you. They have always known you more than we did down here on earth. He taught me about the Bible, why certain things were written the way they were, why some passages seemed to pull against each other. He explained creation, when time began, what sin really cost. He talked about the new heavens and the new earth he is going to make, not renew, not patch up, but make brand new. He said I would live there. He said all of it would be like this, only more so, and the old trouble would never enter it again. I got an education walking beside Jesus that I couldn't have gotten from 1,000 years of reading. And then we sat down on a bench beside the river of life, trees all around us, flowers everywhere, that low hum underneath everything, and he looked at me and he said, I heard you when you first arrived. You asked if you could go back. I didn't answer you then because I could not send you back. Your body is destroyed. Your brain is destroyed. There is nothing left that could help anyone. I thought, well, that settles it. And then he said, however, he said he could send me back with conditions. A new brain, a new heart, new kidneys, new liver, everything made new. He said he would do it in a way that nobody could explain away. No doctor, no scientist, no man with a degree on his wall would be able to look at what happened and call it anything other than a miracle. He said, they will know that I am real. And then he told me the rest of the conditions. I would remember everything, every moment of my life, every moment in heaven, every word he spoke to me on that long walk. Full recall, all of it, forever. And I would share it with anyone, anywhere, any time he put someone in front of me. That was the command, not a suggestion, a command. And then he said the part that gave me pause. He said the moment I went back, I would feel every bit of pain my body had gone through from the time I entered that hospital to the time I left. Every needle, every cut, every scrape. As if there had been no anesthesia at all. The doctors would give me drugs. Those drugs would not work on me. I would feel all of it. He said, if you survive that, only then will I allow you to live. Then he said, your choice. I'm going to search your heart. I didn't have to think long. I told him I would be honored to go back. And I meant it from the bottom of whatever was left of me. And that fast, I was back in my body. He was not lying about the pain. Lord knows, he was not lying about the pain. They had needles straight into my shin bone. Your bones have nerves in them. I know that now in a way I cannot explain to you. They were scraping the inside of my lungs. They had cut my neck crooked with a scalpel while I was bouncing on that table. I felt every single thing, every one of them. I made it through. On May 19th I died. On May 23rd I came back. 4 days on life support with a brain that looked on the MRI like a black hole. My skull was pushed out of shape from the gases my own dying brain was releasing. There was nothing solid inside my head but my spinal column. The doctors tried every single day to convince my wife to pull the plug. She wouldn't do it. We had a living will that said they couldn't take me off for 14 days, and she held them to it. Then one afternoon she squeezed my fingers, and I squeezed back. The doctor said it was a muscle spasm, but she knew. So they lowered the drugs, came back 2 hours later, and that doctor sat down on his little stool next to my bed and hollered as loud as he could, "If you can hear me, raise your arms." I raised both arms. He rolled his chair back, said a few words I won't repeat. Then he ran every test he could think of. They did a second MRI. Perfect brain. Brand new. No explanation. My blood type had changed. I was type A my whole life. I am now type O. The hole in my neck from the tracheotomy, they said it would take weeks to heal. The next morning it was sealed. No scar. Nothing. Just smooth skin where that hole would have been. The doctors said it themselves. Out loud. This is a miracle. There is no other explanation. And that is what he promised me, a miracle nobody could deny. He is real. I am standing here as the proof of it. Don't wait until you're my age to figure that out. I have outlived my pride and most of my excuses. The moment of accountability is not a birthday on a calendar. It is the moment you truly understand what he did and make a real choice. If you are watching this, that moment may be right now. Go talk to him tonight. If this reached you, subscribe and watch the next video. There is more. He told me that you need to hear.